I am Tigner Rain. I'm sitting in for. Did we just lose it? Are we still there? There we go. I thought we lost the signal. Sorry about that. Good evening. This is Tigner Rain. I am the host for this evening show of Rolling Out a Seat at the Table, sitting in for Munson Steve with my co-host Kevin Hooks. We have a special show tonight. We are bringing on one of Chicago's most notable voices on the radio across the airwaves of Chicago. He goes by the name of Mays Jackson. We're here for a special reason, for a special documentary that has just started. That will be airing tomorrow across National Geographics. It is called City So Real. Just a little bit about this documentary. It's a 5-part series that will be airing in its entirety tomorrow, October the 29th, starting at 7 p.m. on National Geographic. City So Real took a deep dive look at the city, especially during the electoral race of 2019, as well as it also touched on a few things that happened during COVID and George Floyd. Mr. Mays Jackson is here today to kind of talk about some of the things that is a part of that documentary. Welcome to the show, Mr. Mays. Welcome back to the show. You're a regular to sit at the table. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. Now, I don't know if I've been at seat at the table, but I am a regular at Rolling Out. So shout out to my man Munson Steve, but I am honored to be interviewed by you gentlemen tonight. And do me a favor, please do not call me Mr. or Sir. That is my dad. I'm just straight Mays.
Yes. That's just
happened, man. You aging me. The gray has already got me. You aging me some more. Just let me stay Mays.
What's in it for the black people?
What's in it for the black people? I like that.
Oh, I gotta have one.
Yeah.
Tell us about that hashtag.
Yeah.
I heard that. Indeed.
Okay. What's the history behind the hashtag?
The history behind the hashtag is actually, I used to be a lobbyist in Springfield. And when I was lobbying in Springfield and I would always be trying to find business, I would always run into these roadblocks. And so What's in it for the Black people originated as What's in it for Mays. But what I found out was every time that I was running into these roadblocks, these same roadblocks were being run into by all of the Black people that were down there. And so one of the things that I noticed was that every time we were doing something, they would always talk about it's good for the community. It's good for people of color. And then at the end of the day, everybody would do well and Black people would be left out. And so I started saying, before we say we agree to anything, before you take a selfie, before you tell me anything that's good, before I give a politician a handshake or an opportunity to win my vote, you got to answer to any question, any vote, anything that comes up, what's in it for the Black people? I feel like the question is universal when it comes to politics, because I really felt like Black people do not understand their self-interest in the realm of politics. We think of politics as an altruistic thing where we're supposed to give and be giving, but the fact of the matter is politics is war without violence. And so if you understand that, the whole game is about bringing resources back to your community. So our Black elected officials have been happy to be the first this and all of the symbolism. But even like when you look at President Obama, you got to ask yourself, what was the net gain for Black people outside of, we got the first Black president, but what did we tangibly get? Amen. And how did our community move forward?
Amen. Thank you for that intro. That actually segues right into the nice conversation. City So Real. I know that you have great love and admiration for the city of Chicago. So let's talk about the reputation of the city and the political city that it is. Why was it so important for this documentary to be filmed in Chicago and for it to be aired starting tomorrow?
Well, I would say, let me start by saying that why was it so important in Chicago? Because I believe Chicago is ground zero for politics, right? It is the machine. While it died in all the other places, Chicago is ground zero for politics. We don't want nobody that nobody sent. Chicago ain't ready for reform. You've heard all of those stories. But I think that what politics in Chicago is a blood sport. That if you can make it in Illinois politics and in Chicago politics, then you can make it anywhere. I mean, you think about the fact that we produced the first Black U.S. congressman after Reconstruction. You think about we produced the first Black U.S. senator. We produced the first Black president. Chicago is ground zero. And I think when you think about the history of what Black people in Chicago went through, it really documents our rise from the South through the Great Migration to the first place where, even for Black folks, the game was no longer just about race, even though race played a good part of it. But in Chicago, we were such a large voting bloc that Black folks were often recruited by white folks, and it gave us a piece of the pie. I think that City So Real takes that from the early 1800s and brings it to a 2000 version.
Okay. Now you were you not in one of the series of?
Then actually, yes, I was actually in 2 of the episodes. I was in the opening episode where we talked about the 16 shots, and then I was in the final episode, which was a look back a year and a half later, where actually after I was actually a victim of Chicago politics. Well, I don't like to say a victim because it created an opportunity for us to build our own network. But after the mayor was elected and I was a strong critic, just like the way it goes in Chicago politics, she got me fired from my job. But
Right.
It also created an opportunity for me to bet on myself, which you'll see in the series.
So, without getting too deep, what is the 16 shots? What can you give us?
Are you familiar with Laquan McDonald, the young
Yes,
man
I
in
am.
Chicago
Yes, I
who
am.
shot 16 times by the police? We did a very dramatic we had a very dramatic scene regarding those 16 shots where we actually played the 16 shots. And it was probably one of the most powerful moments in the documentary. And then I also was in the first episode talking about our county board president, who people thought was the presumed front runner, but we had predicted that she wouldn't make it to the end.
Kevin?
Yeah, it's funny. We get into the meat of the conversation fairly quickly.
Sorry.
Yes.
Back up a little bit, because I've been having this debate about who loved their city more between
Nobody.
Houston, New Orleans, and Chicago. And I swear for God, people in Chicago, that history, that lineage, that love for the city, I ain't never seen nothing like it, man. Like, I used to work in Bloomington, Illinois for
State Farm.
I had to get away from, Bloomington. So a friend of mine let me use this place, 200 North Dearborn in Chicago. So I used to get to know Chicago. Talk about the love for the city that's universal. No problems too big, no opportunities too great. Black folk in Chicago and people in general love the city. Talk about that love.
So I'll talk about it like this. So first of all, Chicago is bigger than it is. So Chicago, there's Chicago proper and there's the Chicago metro area. Now, if you grew up in Chicago, the first thing somebody from Chicago is going to ask you is, what high school did you go to?
Right.
If you can't tell them a Chicago high school, they'll tell you ain't from Chicago. Now, I was born in Chicago. I moved to the suburbs, and then I had to fight back after moving back to the city to reestablish my Chicago street cred. I'm going to tell you, I think that Chicago has a reputation for having some of the most organized crime, some of the most organized politics, and we are ground zero for what I would like to call Black America. Not with all of the, when you get to the coast, you got mixtures, you got all that stuff. We are ground zero for Black Americans who left the South and came to the North. And I think that fighting our way through all of the ethnicities in Chicago and then elbowing our way into a space which we now affectionately know as the South and the West Sides, and then having to come up through all of the challenges from bad schools to politics to just everything that's mixed in. When you come through Chicago, you leave with a sense of like, I've been through it. A war, you've been through the battle. I would also tell you that we call Chicago the city of hate, right? Because Chicagoans are the first people to attack Chicagoans in Chicago. But let somebody from somewhere else say something, we all in on you. Like, look, we like, I'm from this school, I went here, we'll be fighting like cats and dogs. We won't let you out the barrel. But let somebody come from somewhere else, we're gonna be like, nah, homie, this Chicago. I tell this story and then I'll get away from it. I used to represent Rockefeller Records back in the day. And I'll never forget meeting them at the plane and Jay-Z telling all of the rappers and the artists that were under his purview before he got in his limousine and went away. Make sure y'all straighten up y'all hats in Chicago because they don't play. And it just reiterates, and even the toughest of the New Yorkers was like, we don't want none with Chicago.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Like I tell people, if Chicago had Los Angeles weather, you couldn't afford to live there. The cost of living would be so expensive. Like literally a 1-bedroom place in the middle of Chicago would cost you $3 million because the city is so rich, not only with its history, but it's rich with the opportunity and what we're talking about with this work and this documentary. It really, I think, really delves into how, you know, folk handle challenges in Chicago. Like you don't want it with the Chi, and if you come through and you cause some problems, we're going to handle it every way possible. We're going to handle it from the boardrooms to the boulevard. And that's one of the things I really love about it. So I want to ease back into the conversation, you know, the depths of it, because I think the people need to understand this, where this love of Chicago comes from, but also understand that this didn't happen overnight. So as you explore some of this stuff in the documentary, talk about the evolution of Black people and fighting challenges and coming out victorious on the other side, and how we explore some of those things.
So I'm going to tell you, I think that, what honestly, I would say that Chicago is kind of gone backwards for Black folks politically and in power. I think we reached our peak of power with Harold Washington. And I think a lot of Black people in Chicago are still stuck at that moment. And one of the challenges that we have is that Harold Washington, the aftermath after Harold Washington was so divisive that it really destroyed the cohesion of the Black political power base that he created. Now, what I will tell you is that Black Chicagoans then adapted. Let me go back though, because you got to think about, we are the place where the Great Migration, this is where ground zero for the Great Migration. Robert Sinstack and the Chicago Defender telling everybody, come on up to Chicago. And then you think about Chicago being the first place. We elected Oscar DePriest, the first place after Reconstruction, to send a Black congressman to Congress. This is the place where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came to try and crack the nut and said, good God, this place is worse than anything that I've been in down south. And so when you understand that, right, this guy had bricks and boxes and dogs and everybody turned on him in the South. But when he got to Chicago, he realized that the racism and hate was so inbred. Now, what you got to think about is Black folks have had to succeed in spite of all of that. And so what you find in Chicago is that Black folks have created their own enclaves. We've created our own spaces. And then we remain the most segregated city in Chicago. So while we go, in the world, because while we go downtown and we all may mix and mingle and work, at the end of the day, everybody retreats to their own neighborhoods and builds their own sense of camaraderie. One of the things that has happened, though, is over time when they took down the housing projects, those were insular communities and they were concentrated poverty and crime. And so what tended to happen was we were able to put that and put a fence around that and say, this is Black Chicago, those are those people over there. Well, when we had the plan for transformation, those buildings that were blocks in the sky were then knocked down and laid into our neighborhoods. And there was no transition. And so what you saw was people who may not have had the same familiarities, who may not have had the same experiences as the middle class, because we have the most solid Black middle class in the country at one point. What you have seen, though, is over time, is that has been eroded. And as Chicago has been discovered by white yuppies around the world, all the places that nobody would come to before or said was the worst is now being converted into $1 million homes. And so Black people are trying to figure out where they fit. We were at one point at the peak in the 80s, late 80s, 1.2 million Black people. At this point, there are less than 600,000. We are now we are second to Latinos when this used to be the #1 Black city.
Wow. You exude this self-reliance that is, I think, representative of Chicago. This, I'm going to take on the world by myself if I have to. I'm going to invite everybody to come with me. But if it's just me standing by myself, that's what it's got to be. Where does that come from? And how do you see that moving forward being sort of the hallmark of success for Black folk in Chicago?
So I would say that a big chunk of what pushes me or drives me is what was instilled in me from a child from my parents, right? They instilled in me a work ethic that made me at 15 get a job, 2 jobs. I worked at Burger King and McDonald's at the same time. And so me personally, I have always had a drive and a desire to be successful. I think even if you look in the documentary and you'll see there's a point when the city and the politics that I love so much turn against me and make me leave the job that I love. However, it is that self-determination, that spirit of John Sinstack, that spirit of John H. Johnson that said to me, man, this is the place where Black media was created, where Burrell Communications, where Black people defined what Black America was going to look like. And so I said, if they're going to take me and kick me out off the voice of the Negro for standing up for the Negro, then I had to ask the question, what's in it for the Black people? And so what I did was I said, I'm going to create a new media outlet entitled What's in it for the Black People Media, so that every single time someone mentioned us, they would have to ask that question, what's in it for the Black people? And by asking that question, our self-interests come to the forefront. And knowing that our self-interests are at the forefront, that then creates an opportunity, not just for me, but for all of my peers alike. And so I'm going to be honest with you. I don't just do this for Mays Jackson, right? Quite frankly, I do it because a lot of people in Illinois, a lot of Black folks don't have the platform or the wherewithal to withstand the pressure of standing up. What we find is that most of our elected officials, and you'll see it in the documentary, fold to the pressure of the party to the detriment of Black people. We created this so that Black people had an outlet, and you get to see me getting the boot and then saying, hey, look, I'm gonna bet on myself. Here's my $20,000. I'm betting. And you look now and you're able to see, and I really wish you all could see where we are now, because in the documentary, they show us broadcasting on crates. And from that point, in the last 3 months since they recorded that, we have expanded our studio. We now have 12 hours of programming. We're bringing back people who were told before that they couldn't do. And we took that self-reliance that we had and we shared it with 12 other people to grow a network that we believe will be the center of Black media in Chicago.
Can you touch on that again? Actually, that's in episode 5, where you, along with some of the listeners, were quote unquote censored based upon some comments that you made about now Mayor Lightfoot. So what were some of the things that kind of led to that led to your being let go?
Very simply, after the uprisings, the mayor's office decided to engage Latino street organizations, read gangs, to help protect the neighborhoods from the coming looters, right? The only way that these Latino gang members knew how to identify quote unquote looters was to say that they were Black. And what wound up happening was City Hall engaged street organizations to protect their neighborhoods, and it wound up Black people who were driving through those neighborhoods were victimized. And when I say victimized, pulled out of the cars, beat down. We had murders. You got stories of people being impaled. It was smash on sight, for lack of a better term, for Black people. And it was instigated by the mayor who was funding these organizations. We had videotape of it. We had audio tape of it. And when she got called on it, she basically told the alderman, screw you, right? But now I've got callers. I'm working at the Voice of the Negro, where I have built a level of trust because I'm not scared to say it regardless of who it is. And our callers are calling saying, Mays, tell people don't go down Western because there's people standing outside. And if you stop at a stoplight, they will bust your windows and pull you out. Well, I have a duty to my people as a Black man to warn them. Well, what essentially wound up happening was it embarrassed the mayor because we did the full-on investigation, and she reached out to our radio station and talked to the boss, and the boss said, hey, Mays, no more talking about the mayor. And so essentially she said, even as our people were calling us on air being assaulted, we were told you cannot mention the mayor's name, you cannot mention anything she's involved in, and hang up on the callers. Now imagine I got callers crying because they're being assaulted. They can't go to the store. I got seniors saying I can't, and they're telling me on a Black radio station that I can't speak on that. Well, you know what? That is, I said to myself, and I battled with it, right? Because you're the host of the morning show in the Black station. There is a lot of prestige and a lot of power that comes with that, even though they don't pay you shit. But there is a lot of prestige being at the landmark Black station, right? Mm-hmm. And to know that I believed in what's in it for the Black people. I believed in the station, and to know that our people could be victimized because it would be an embarrassment to the mayor, mind you, the fact that people were getting hurt. I said, how often does a Black man, when faced with a challenge like that and being told what he cannot do, how often does he have the wherewithal to grab his nuts, say, I quit, take his money, his own money, and say, I'll bet on myself? And I said, what would my son say? What would the people who watch? I never knew this documentary was going to happen when I made the decision, but to have it documented, I said to myself, think about all the Black men across the country who have had to be caponed or have their nuts cut because they stood up for themselves or their families, right? And essentially I said no. And so it was documented. They documented that transition that let me leave the other station to build What's in It for the Black People Media. As a matter of fact, they were with me when I turned over the check, and they were there the first day we broadcasted live.
Wow. Well documented.
So what makes you so proud about this work?
What makes me proud about this work is it really is, as some have said, a love letter to Chicago. You know, Chicago, there are so many days when I want to pull my hair out. I want to scream. I want to yell. I want to throw something. And I say, man, I listed all those cities you talked about. I said, man, if I moved to those cities, I could go and I would rule those cities because I live here in Chicago and I could come dominate those cities. But I love my city. I love my city. I love every fight. I love the struggle that it is to be a Black man in Chicago. I love looking them white boys in the eye straight up and being able to say, I'm not scared of you, right? Or to be able to say what's in it for the Black people, and now get to a point where people are now saying what's in it for the Black people locally, regionally, and nationally, and starting to make this awareness. So why do I love this documentary? Because it really does show not a tale of two cities, but a tale of 200 cities that exist within this place that we call home. And I gotta say, you know, when you look, because you talked about if Chicago was in LA or somewhere else, I think that Chicago is the most beautiful big city in the country. When you look at our lake, when you look at our skyline, first of all, when you look at the lake and you try to explain that to people, they're like, that ain't a lake, that's an ocean. Right. And when you look at all of the beautiful restaurants, the skyline, even on our worst day, I would not trade Chicago. And I think this documentary captures that. As much as I love coming to Atlanta and I love Peachtree, and I feel like I could be the king of Atlanta. Don't tell Jermaine Dupri, don't tell Munson, but I could be the king of Atlanta. But I feel like I want to own my own city.
What do you appreciate everything that you've given us. You're listening to A Seat at the Table. We are with Mays Jackson and Kevin Hooks. Tell me, what should people glean from this? What are some of the key nuggets that they should take away from this documentary?
I think some of the key nuggets that they should take away from the documentary are the diversity of Chicago, right? The fact that politics here is a blood sport. And when I say diversity, see, I don't mean the fancy diversity. It's the one that makes everybody feels good. I'm talking about it's black, it's white, it's Asian, it's Latino. We're diverse, we're separate. We'll come together as Chicagoans. We'll go to the games together. We'll go to the restaurants together, but we'll retreat to our neighborhoods. I think you'll see the flavor of the neighborhoods. I think you'll see the disconnect that on one side of town, while 16 shots, and it was the biggest thing happening in Black Chicago that changed our lives for decades, that changed the state's attorney, et cetera. Quite frankly, on the north side of Chicago, they were like, I don't really know any much about that. And it shows you how disconnected white folks are from the struggles of everyday people that they walk right past. And then I will tell you that it really captures the essence of Chicago politics, right? If you are a political junkie, if you like politics, this is something to watch, but it also humanizes it. Now, what I think is also so unique about this is that you get the opportunity to reflect, right? To see what these people said and where they are a year later. And I think what you find is that Mayor Lightfoot, who in the first part of it seemed to be almost like a hero and triumphant, I think you get a different perspective as you see the city after the uprising and the results of the uprising. So I think it's a comprehensive look at Chicago in probably one of its most trying times.
Wow. City So Real is a documentary. It will be airing on National Geographic in an unprecedented
Docu-series, 5 episodes.
That's correct. It's unprecedented. They're going to show in one night 5 hours commercial free on October the 29th, beginning at 7 p.m. All 5 episodes of this docu-series that will also be available on Hulu the following day on February 30th. So
not February 30th. October 30th. Right before, day before Halloween.
Black History Month. You've been talking so much game. He had to go all the way back to
Black History Month. October the 30th.
Go ahead, game. Okay, game.
And it's not even 30 days in February when it should be.
But that's the Black History Month, right? They change us all the time.
My brother Mays, I appreciate you for all you have given to the city and all what you have given to us through Rolling Out. You are definitely a part of the family, and you've always been there anytime we've called you. And we thank you for tonight, for really just shedding a little light on this docu-series, City So Real, which will be airing tomorrow night on October the 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the National Geographic's channel. Appreciate you, Mays. Stay safe. I know winter has already come your way, so bundle up.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure, brother. Go ahead.
Hey, first of all, thank you all for this interview. I appreciate you. I'm always honored to have the opportunity to be on Rolling Out. I got to tell you, the first time that I remember the first article, and I was like, Munson, I know I can't get a national article. And he was like, brother, you can't get a national article. Brother, you national to me. So I got to always show my brother Munson much, much, much love. I also want to encourage you all, if you are in Chicago, check us out Monday through Friday, actually from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the What's in It for the Black People Network. You can check us out on the Mays Jackson page. You can also check us out on YouTube, on the Mays Jackson YouTube channel. Always got much love for Rolling Out, man. And always honored to be with you guys. Hey, y'all, and I'm a media whore, so if you ever need me to come back, just let me know.
Right. I love it.
Give out your social media handles also.
All right, you can get me at the Mays Jackson page if you want to follow us and get our shows. Mays Jackson on Facebook, at Mays Jack, that's MAZJAC on Twitter, and Mays Jackson Said on Instagram. Plus, you can go to with the WIIFTBP Media and check everything we got out.
That's awesome. Any last words you want to say about the documentary or
City So Real. Watch it. I always wanted to do that. Peace, y'all.
Thanks, man.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Kevin.
Yes, sir.
We
What you
good?
think, man?
Did I do all right?
You did outstanding, man.
Thank you, brothers. Now, when does it air? Is it airing? Was it live?
Hey, brother, we live. We still rolling right now.
What? What's up? Don't tell my mama. Hey, y'all don't curse. Hey, mom. Hi, mom. Hey, Auntie Neil. Hey, Reagan. Hey, Carrie Steele. Hey, everybody from Rolling Out. ATL, when y'all gonna have me in town, man? What's up? Shout out to my dog, Munson Steve. Yo, mom, I'm gonna be famous.
I got nothing. I'm done, Tina. I'm done.
That was good, man.
Media horror right here, anytime.
We got you, man. So, this is live. We're actually going live. We have another show coming up afterwards, but we're definitely going to check it out. I want everyone to tune in because this is something that we need to see.
You know what? If you watched Hoop Dreams very quickly, the same guy who did Hoop Dreams and did the Allen Iverson story did this documentary. If you also saw America to Me, Steve James and America to Me, y'all, I'm gonna tell y'all, I believe that this documentary has the potential to be Oscar nominated. So I want to tell you, check it out. We blew through Sundance. It was the biggest. Everybody loved it. I'm gonna stop taking up y'all time because I talk forever. Because again, media horror, that's me. But I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and take care of the next person sitting in the waiting room. Thank y'all.
Thank you, brother. Be safe.
Peace.
Peace. We got our brother coming up next. We have Mr. Ian Dunlap.
How you doing, brother?
The one and only. My man is always G'd up every time he come on. Got a
try
fresh haircut.
Yeah.
Got on the blazer.
I try to. You're trying to earn my keep so I can stay on at the seat at the table.
You already on the team, brother. You here.
I appreciate that. My brother from Chicago, I ain't talked to him in a minute. We could have kept him on.
He was rushing. I was wanting him to stay on, but he jumped before I could even say it. I was getting ready to introduce you and keep everything going to try to get you on before he dropped off. But what's new, man? What's new in the market?
Today was pretty interesting. A key level for the Dow was 26,500. We got underneath that. Good homework assignment that you guys can do at home right now. I want you to look and see how much money hedge funds put towards Joe Biden's campaign. So there's a little bit of infighting to try and push.
Again, how much money that
hedge funds have invested into Joe Biden's campaign.
Okay.
It's a pretty penny. So what you're seeing now is a combination of the market falling down because of COVID cases going up, but also the funds that are Republican are fighting the ones that are Democratic because they know if the cases go up, the economy is down, and then the S&P breaks under a certain level, right in time for that deadline of election, they can uproot who is currently in office. So keep your eyes on that.
Are they also funding down ballot? Because I see Lindsey Graham's complaining because his opponent's getting so much money thrown into the race, and a few other Republican candidates. So they must be funding ballot down as well.
Yes, absolutely. And then, of course, the mail-in vote issue is going to be key. So they're telling people to not even mail them in, to try and drop them off. So we are at, the final hours of one of the most important political races of our lifetime. So
yes, it is.
All the tricks are going to be thrown out, and people are going to do everything they can to get their side to win. And if the Democrats end up losing, it's going to be a disaster because it's the second time that they would have stolen something from Bernie Sanders. So the DNC is going to get their stuff in order pretty soon.
So
for everybody listening, everybody watching, go and vote. If you got a mail-in ballot, it's too late.
It's too late.
Go vote. Either drop off the ballot or get ready to social distance or stand in line. We need you to vote. 67 million votes already cast, more than half of what was cast in the last presidential election, but that's not enough. We're still behind. You know, whatever side of the equation you're on, the election is too close right now for you to be playing games and saying it doesn't matter anymore. Your vote matters now more than ever.
It's very probable that Biden could win and then Trump won't be out of office.
Yes.
Very probable.
Yes.
Both sides have lawyered up. Both sides have started to put all their ducks in a row in anticipation. But
Yes.
I can tell you this, if you want your candidate to win, the one way to avoid that is to get out and vote in such a massive way that there's a blowout and it's not up for debate. When you come out of the other side of it 8 to 10 points ahead, there's not going to be any.
There won't be no question to ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
So hypothetically,
going to be a problem.
Hypothetically, say that does happen, Ian. How would that impact the market?
It wouldn't be good because the market needs stillness, it needs calmness, it needs peace. So even if Trump retains office, there is a concern geopolitically about how he would carry himself out with China, Japan, North Korea, etc. And with civil unrest being the way that it is and the economy being bad, it can send the market sliding down. We are at a very critical spot because these next 4 years, literal 5 years, could be lost. So for those of you that were invested in Microsoft during the Obama era, we literally saw the stock be flat for a 10-year period, and our market could do the same thing if we don't get some of these concerns under control. So the election is just a tipping point because after that, then leadership has to then fix the economy. We have to mend some of the geopolitical issues that we're having because China is on our butt. And I would argue if we're making a business case study that China has surpassed us in terms of dominance, intellectually in terms of education and also in innovation. But we do have the hedge that is the market, but that won't necessarily last forever. Because we're seeing some big companies now, GE, AT&T, start to fold and start to crumble. So some of these legacy companies, even oil, we talked about it a few weeks ago, but oil doesn't have the stronghold that it once had 25 years ago. Energy companies are not doing as well. So now we're looking at alternative energy. We are literally living in history in real time. So we have some important decisions to make over the next few years.
What's happening with gold? Why is gold doing what it's doing?
Gold is a good hedge. So if the market goes down, gold is going to slide up. Same thing with the bond market. I talked about it on Market Mondays. A key level to look out for on the volatility index is 47. So if we hit 47, that's going to be the pain point where I'm like, okay, things are about to get bad. That is a very key level. So you guys can write that down. We were at 40 today. Mm-hmm. So things are getting a little bit.
So basically, as if the market keeps trickling down like it is, then
yes,
that will get us closer to that 47, which
yes,
could be that tipping point.
Yes, and that's the only asset that has 100% inverse correlation. So if the market goes down, the VIX goes up. The bond market has been running up for a while, but it tapered off in August after it hit that all-time high. And then gold did the same thing. So everything is settling. And now new money, it's not the best time to put money in because everything hit its high in August and September. And now it's sliding down. So everyone's really waiting to see how the dust settles after the election so they can then begin to put new money into the market.
So the Dow Jones closed down negative 943.24 today.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, we need to keep watching it because it potentially could continue to go down some more.
Yeah. And then if we break sub 25,000, then it's going to get back because now we're starting to get at levels. So kudos to all my Red Panda family members. But where the market opened at this year on the S&P 500, we're sitting at that exact level. So we're about to go negative. Even, January and February was solid. March, we fell apart. We recovered. We're getting underneath the open of the year.
And we open the year with what?
I want everyone at home to add this to their homework assignments. And I'll post it tomorrow.
Okay.
So we can have a little bit of an interactive experience. I'm learning.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if we break underneath that open for the year, it won't be good. And things will start to smooth out maybe first quarter, but it depends on policy. So once people know what the policy is going to be, the hedge funds, pension funds, family offices, they will know how to allocate their capital, and then everyone else will follow and things will be calm. So regardless of who you have in office, you still want them to have at least some kindness and peacefulness in their approach, because it will affect our economy overall. A few miscalculations, and we talk about risk to reward ratios all the time, but not taking care of this COVID early enough caused an issue. And I know Biden was like, hey, I would have done this. He too, at the time, did not take it serious. So I want to be fair in that. But when you have these kind of emergencies, you have to smother them before things get out of hand.
Biden had no power. He was a civilian just like us.
Yeah, but if he was in office, he would have made the same decision. I don't like when people play both sides of the fence. Like if you're wrong, say that you were wrong and you missed, because no one took it. I can live with that, but don't play both sides. And then also, for those of you that are into politics and like for those of you listening on the DNC, you guys are going to have to start grooming some younger candidates.
Without question.
Well, without question. Also, what you're going to have to do is to take the black and brown vote seriously, because you've taken them for granted. And,
Yes.
And you just quote unquote assume that they're going to vote for you. Period.
Yes.
Point blank.
Yes. And
that's
that
why so many
travesty.
brown people have gone over to the Republican and vice versa.
Yes.
Is because they have taken the black vote for granted. But yet we've talked about it. We ain't gonna get deep in on this call, but they don't take it. We don't ask for nothing.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, we complain because we didn't get nothing. But you didn't ask for anything.
The next 70-year-old white man that I meet who's never been racist or prejudiced or uttered a racist word will be the first one I've ever met. So exactly. It's for us to be able to, bring this together. I don't care what your race is, but the idea that we're complaining about what a 70-year-old white man being racist is laughable to me. So, we got to bring in fresh blood. We got to make sure that people understand the challenges that we face. But here's the other thing. I'm watching this real estate market and how, for some reason, the foundation seems to be holding on strong. Mm-hmm. But I just got to believe that regardless of what's happening, after everything is built up, that when that falls, that fall is going to be hard again.
Yeah, and I think commercial will fall first. So because of COVID, everyone began leaving urban areas and going to suburban. So we're having that 20 or 40-year shift where people switch from suburbs to urban or vice versa. And they drove the property values up. And all the people leaving California, they're driving the property values up here in Texas. And they did it in Austin. They're doing it in Vegas. Yeah, especially. So the writing has been on the wall for a long time.
When you see people doing deals on commercial properties in New York City, you know it's the fact that they're actually dealing and they're negotiating and they're coming down.
Yes.
Like, it's a problem. And the other thing is now these companies have realized the efficiencies that can be realized from this virtual reality. That's gonna also, I think, something that's we're not gonna come back from that. That's an efficiency we've identified. Companies have become accustomed to it. So this brick and mortar reality, I think there's gonna be a substantive change, permanent.
The companies that make the adjustments the fastest are going to have a chance to build a monopoly in the next 10 and 20 years. That's why I keep saying every week, like, corporations have to adjust faster. Because even with that commercial real estate space, there's a lot that you can do with it.
Yeah.
If you find the right model. But these writings were on the wall. Like even with WeWork, some of the issues that they faced, those were signs. When Toys R Us went out of business, that was a sign. And it's a good lesson. Don't look for the top companies to crumble first. Look for the weakest companies to fall. And when you see that they are continuing to have a trend, that is the calm before the storm. Because in a perfect economy, when everything is smooth, almost everyone is able to flourish or at least stay in business. All now, when the economy contracts and it gets tougher, then you'll see layoffs first, then bankruptcies, and then it's going to trickle down in that manner.
You're tuned into A Seat at the Table. We are talking with Ian Dunlap of Red Panda Academy, along with Kevin Hooks. We got a few people, man. You got a fan club out here. I'm looking at our social media page. They shouting out T Trill Aldrich gave you 3 pandas.
Kudos to my Red Panda family. I love you guys.
Yeah, Condra Khan gave you 2 pandas. Mark, the General Francis, he said, let's live. We're living in history. Hello, dude, from Edwin Rodriguez. So they all tuning in. If you all have any questions, just drop us a few questions and we can answer those before we go off the air.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah. I'm looking at something right now talking about how the market, a stock that is moving after the market closes, the biggest moves after hours. Can you kind of talk about that? What typically happens after hours with stock?
So if you have earnings after hours, that'll send the stock moving up. But also too, for a little competitive advantage, I want you guys to do your homework on this. If you buy stocks post-market versus pre-market, which one will give you a percentage gain advantage in comparison? I'll give you guys the answer next week. So if you tend to buy your stocks post-market, after the market closes, do you have an annualized gain advantage versus if you buy them in pre-market? There's a considerable hedge and advantage that you have to doing one versus the other. Now, of course, I know everyone says you can't time the market, but there are things you can do to put some of these entries in your favor. Mm-hmm. And one of those two, if you can read my body language, I think you already know which one. But do your homework. I want you to Google, and we'll come back next week and talk about it, because buying at a particular time will give you an advantage. And you would have had a chance to see what happened throughout the day. So when you make your entry to buy for long term, you already know what that stock is going to do. But normally it's because of earnings that the market is going to move post hours.
Okay. Any new changes? Anything new that we need to keep our eyes on? I'm kind of looking at a lot of big stocks. Walt Disney was down $4 a day. They closed down.
Yeah.
Apple down. It's only small, but $5.40. Home Depot down $7. Nike down $5.91.
These next 2 weeks are going to be brutal.
Yeah.
I don't know how to phrase it any other way. Now, of course, for those of you that are watching that are traders, you need to look. We're going to have maybe one or two more pushes before the election where we go down. Dow may drop 500 or 600 points. I'm not sure if it'll be tomorrow, but here's a great tip. Download the CNBC app. Kudos to my CNBC family. I love you guys. Everybody at NBC Universal. In the morning, they usually will tell you which way the market is going to go. So pre-market today, it said the Dow futures are set to drop by 600 points.
Wow.
So with all the technology we have, when people are like, you don't know where the market is going to go, all the technology goes through the government first, and then it usually makes its way over to Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
With all the data that they've collected and all the cables they put into the oceans to get faster connections, if you don't think they don't know which days the market is going to drop, you guys are crazy.
So they forecasted how many it was going to drop by how much?
600, 30 minutes before the market opened.
And it literally dropped 943.
A lot of times they'll put it out in plain sight. And then I said 2 weeks ago, hey, we're going to drop. And people's like, no. I'm like, no, we're going to drop. We talked about it last week. Hey, we're going to drop. And if there's no incentive to buy right now. So if everything is at a high, plus the economy is still bad, plus COVID is going up. And not just here. So Italy, France, I think China may be the only country that has a good handle on it. But everyone else is getting hammered.
But part of the reason I read that the reason why China was able to sustain, even though it started there, they literally shut it down. They did almost a complete overhaul health-wise. And then they also gave an economic shot. So kind of equivalent to our PPP, they gave businesses money as well as the people. So I actually read on NPR, they were saying on Monday that their third quarter was a gain.
Yeah.
The only country out of COVID who had a gain.
And then also, given the structure of the country, we won't talk about the pros and cons of it, but
yes,
the citizens listened whether they were forced to or whether they wanted to or not.
About free right to not wear a mask in China.
Yeah, so even politically,
you're gonna be sitting behind concrete walls.
Yeah, like not wearing a mask became a political statement, and I get it if you are on the GOP, but you can't argue with the data of exposure.
Yeah,
like I mean, once the president gets it, you can't say that it's not real. Barron has it. So, which I think even from a strategist standpoint, I think the GOP missed a great opportunity as well, because it's not very clear cut that Trump is going to win. This is not 2016 all over again. People didn't like Hillary as much. I think she made some missteps in her campaign. I think not having Bernie on the ticket was an issue, but that's some insider fighting that
Yes. Yeah.
happened as a result. And
You
then
got to
Bernie,
think about
go
how
ahead.
many people who did not vote, because a lot of people didn't vote for Hillary because of Hillary. What was the number? Well, almost 3 million people did not vote at all.
And some of people, Bernie's supporters, because they were upset, they also voted for Trump.
Exactly,
So
that too. It was a combination.
yeah, so you have to be very strategic in these things and know. And that's why even with Obama picking Biden, they weren't best of friends beforehand, but Obama knew with him being young and having the perception of not being a great leader politically, he had to pair himself with someone that was older and who had more experience, and then they worked it out. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, so these political decisions end up affecting the economy and the market and our money, because every presidential election comes down to money, whether it's jobs, economic stimulus, businesses doing better, taxes. The main four issues are always around money, always.
In your opinion, by looking at the stock market, just looking at dollars and cents, based upon the last 4 years, did Trump help increase business and economics during his tenure?
He did until he didn't. This is like, so this is a classic example. Okay, so if my mom used to be like, hey, don't play with matches because I know if you burn the paper, it only takes one time to burn a house down.
Right.
And then I didn't listen and I got the whooping of a lifetime one time. We won't talk about that. But if
me too.
so that's the same thing with asymmetric risk to reward. Two miscalculations in COVID, that sent the world spinning. And of course, he can say, well, hey, we didn't cause it, but if it still affects you, it doesn't matter. So for a while, he inherited a good market and a good economy. So now you have that. The market did go up. Great, because taxes were low, technology companies took off. But when you mismanage this is like pouring gasoline in the house and letting your kid set it ablaze, and then you don't grab the fire extinguisher and just say, it's going to put itself out. Now everything is in ruin and you're screaming to your wife, oh, baby, please give me another chance. I won't make the mistake again. Right. So some risk you don't want to take. Yeah. Because, and usually when Republicans lose office, it's historically because the economy or the market is. So history repeats itself. When Obama took office from Bush, the stage was set because the economy was so bad, you had to turn it over to someone else and then do a regime change. So I think he did an okay job at growing the market somewhat. The conditions were set for it to grow, but I mean, Obama and then like the Fed gets more credit for the growth of the economy or the market more so than who was in
he does.
Yeah, the package got to have some credit. I mean, for all, there's history will always cite that he saved the automobile industry. Yeah. He put foundation and solidarity back into the banking institutions, and some of the choices that he made that even the blue collar workers we were disappointed in really I think set the economy up for the job growth. And yeah, it didn't grow at the rate that it certainly grew faster when President Trump came in and cut taxes. Yep. It certainly started to grow faster, but I mean, you don't need but a third grade economics, understanding to walk into that market and go, if I cut people's liabilities and allow them, the best of us to flourish and then encourage spending, when we're a 70% or so spending market, then it's gonna grow and be successful. So
and we needed this correction since 2008, but the thing that people are not saying and telling the truth about, the market has not fully recovered from 2007.
I think that is the biggest truth.
That's a very good point.
Everyone and even when I graduated, so those of you that are older that graduated, let's say college between 2000 and 2004, the feeling was as soon as you graduated, you were going to have job placement. It was rare to be 8 months without a job. Rare. Now, even those with postgraduate degrees, and there isn't as much certainty.
That was before the pandemic reality.
Yep.
And now in the pandemic and post-pandemic, getting jobs is still going to be tough unless
it's going to be tough.
Identify where the opportunities in the growth markets are and really hone your skills to satisfy those needs. Because I can tell you right now, people that are working in like diversity And equity and inclusion, they're seeing opportunities. People that are working in any kind of delivery service,
Yeah.
they're seeing opportunity. Anybody's working in pharma are seeing opportunities. So understanding where the opportunities are and then holding your skills to fit those opportunities is how you're going to be able to survive in this challenging market.
And then
Yeah.
also, if you guys look back to 2004, it's a good homework assignment. Look and see what the real unemployment number was in 2004 and compare it to today. So if you
Right.
guys look at like macro trends, or there's .net, or there's some other sites. So when people say, because I know Trump's like, well, the unemployment is the lowest for blacks that it's ever been. And it's like, well, if 1.5 million people stop applying,
Right. Right.
you know, that's another thing. So like, there's a difference between the reported data versus what the actual number is. And then we're just going through a cataclysmic shift. But like since 2007, the world hasn't been the same since then. It really hasn't.
Gentlemen, we're gonna have to put a pin in it. Give me your closing remarks in 30 seconds.
These next 2 weeks will be rough. Nevertheless, stick to the plan because we're looking at a minimum 5-year horizon for investing. Long term, you're looking for 30 years. If this is your first downslide, enjoy it because it will make you a better investor 2 or 3 years from now.
Outstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned in to Rolling Out a Seat at the Table. I've been your host today, Tigner Rand, along with Kevin Hooks, with our special guest, Ian Dunlap. We have up next on A Seat at the Table, Nothing New Under the Sun, with Miss Cora Masters-Berry. They will be talking about what's going on with special guests Tamika Mallory, Melanie Campbell, and Mary Pat Hector. So make sure you stay tuned to these powerful ladies who will be coming on at the top of the hour to talk about what's going on. Thank you for joining. Kevin, you got something to do? You got to close it out?
No, I'm here.
I'm listening. What you gonna say?
Channeling my inner Munson Steve. You don't have to be in the streets, but you have to be in the struggle.
My guy. I love y'all.
Love you. Thank you, Ian. Until next week. Appreciate you. This is A Seat at the Table. Until tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock. Make it a great evening. God is so in love with you. He's ready to wrap his loving arms around you. All you got to do is say yes. Okay, Ashley.